On this episode of RevHang, Ben and I talk about the Mexican Grand Prix. Let's do it. Hello everybody and welcome to RevHang. I'm your host Nathan Nebu, and alongside me today is my fellow gearhead and co-host Ben Bagley. How's it going, Ben?
Just braving the rain.
Oh yes, it has been very rainy the last couple days.
It's soggy.
It's supposed to snow here next week.
In the valley?
Yeah, in the valley.
What?
I know, it's like you moved away from the high desert, hoping to get away from that, but no.
Well, that works for me. I missed the snow. It snowed earlier this week in Klamath Falls, and I was a little jealous of that.
Yeah. I miss the snow too. Having lived in Montana for a couple of years, that was one of my favorite parts. I don't think it's supposed to stick much, but still gonna snow a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is not a weather channel podcast or anything like that. This is a Formula One podcast, primarily, I guess, at this point. Especially today. We only have Formula One to talk about. There haven't been any other series. We only actually have one more race in the MotoGP series, and that is coming up on Sunday, November 6th. So we'll be going over that next episode. This episode is coming out a little bit late. We kind of had some scheduling problems this week. Both of us had a lot going on, so it's about a week late, but that's okay. We'll be back in a week for Brazil, and hopefully on our normal-ish schedule.
You're still faster than the FIA.
Yep, exactly. That's all that matters. Anyway, the Formula One Mexican Grand Prix was this week, and we saw... there was quite the build-up. I thought it was going to be a very good race, based on free practices. Yeah. Qualifying was exciting. Let's go over qualifying real quick. We'll go over the top 10. It was Verstappen in first, followed by Russell and Hamilton, and Perez and Sainz rounding off the top 5, and then 6 through 10 was Bottas, Leclerc, Norris, Alonso, and Ocon. Valtteri Bottas in P6. What a performance for him in qualifying.
Screaming. Absolutely.
So, getting into the race, Verstappen got the best start off the line, and was in front coming out of turn 1. And Hamilton also had a good start and was able to get past Russell into turn 1 to take second place. Perez followed Hamilton through past Russell basically into turn 4, promoting him into third. After that, Verstappen just gapped the field and managed it for the rest of the race, as we've seen so many times already this year. Danny Ricciardo was the standout driver this week. He dropped a few positions at the beginning of the race, but quickly started to make his way through the field, overtaking everybody in his way and making it look pretty easy. It was so nice to see Danny Ric have a good week.
Finally,
right. On lap 13... Pierre Gasly and Lance Stroll collided going into turn 4. Gasly was able to take the position and he was given a 5-second penalty for forcing another driver off the track, and he was given that instead of being forced to give the position back, which I wasn't a huge fan of. But they waited so long to to award him that penalty that by the time they figured out what they wanted to do, he was already long down the road.
Thank you, FIA. Very cool.
Yep. Thanks for being nice and snappy with it, as always. Red Bull had a big gamble this week in their pit stops. It looked like they were going to go for the 2-stop, but they decided to pit both drivers for mediums, which I guess was in accordance with the 2-stop, but they ended up going to the end of the race, both drivers, on the mediums.
Yeah, impressive.
Yeah, very impressive. Very good tire management from both Max and Checo. Mercedes went with the safer option, putting the hards on for the one-stop race, but the hards really never came to them. They never could really get in that perfect temperature window and switch on the tires, so they kind of were just nowhere after that pit stop.
Yeah, the medium tires definitely seem to be the best performing tire of the season.
For sure.
They seem to just last way longer than they should, almost to the point where it's not worth going to hards, which it seems no car this year works well on.
Right. And for some reason, the hards, like, it doesn't seem to matter which track it is. The hards are just way too slow to be viable.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, I don't know if it's going to get better because they've been testing the new tire compounds for next year in Free Practice 2 in the United States and Mexico. And those tires, I think, are the hards for next year, and they're like 3.5 seconds off the pace. Now,
yeah, I was watching some of those free practices. The drivers just looked like they had zero grip.
Absolutely no grip. They were sliding everywhere, which was exacerbated by Mexico because that track is just slippery already. But even in the US, they were sliding all over the track and just couldn't switch the tires on. So I don't know if Pirelli's going to make any big changes before next year. I would imagine they'll make some. But if the tires are really that bad next year, plus they're weaning off the tire blankets and lowering the temperature that they can be next year, and then I think eventually they're going to get rid of them completely. Tires are going to be really interesting in the next couple of years.
Yeah, they're kind of riding a fine balance between making the races more entertaining and challenging and helping the cars go a little faster on the tracks.
Yeah. I think the FIA just went to Pirelli and said, just chaos, please.
Yeah. Take everything and subtract 10% off.
Yeah. Yeah. On lap 51, Daniel Ricciardo sent it down the inside of Yuki Tsunoda into turn 6, but made contact with him and ended up ending Tsunoda's race. Because of that, Ricciardo was given a 10-second penalty, which I think is probably about fair.
Yeah, when we say contact, what's meant is he drove over Tsunoda's tires in order to gain position.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It
was impressive. It was an IndyCar move for sure.
Absolutely an IndyCar move.
Wink, wink.
Yeah, Rubbins racing, I guess. Or slamming, I guess, but not the best driving from Daniel Ricciardo, but he more than made up for it later in the race, overtaking even more people. I think he overtook 3 or 4 people after that, and then gapped them by 10 seconds, and was able to finish the race with the penalty without losing any positions. So, absolute stunning race from Daniel Ricciardo. Really good to see. On lap 65, Fernando Alonso pulled off the track into turn 1 because his engine blew up. More problems at Alpine for Fernando Alonso. It's official.
The Q2 engine.
He is the unluckiest man in Formula 1 history.
He and Carlos Sainz, like both the Spaniards, have just been having awful seasons this year.
Yeah, it's been tough. Because I mean, like if you look at the standings and the championship right now, Fernando's a couple points behind Ocon. But if you look at the actual races, Fernando's been miles ahead of Ocon most of the time. And it's just like he's gotten these really unlucky DNFs that have, messed up his season. But I think he'd probably have another 50 or 60 points by now if he didn't have those luck problems. He'd probably be in a fight with Lando Norris for P7 in the championship, if I were to guess. But that's all speculation.
French reliability. Yeah, it's something we make fun of a lot.
Of course. Max Verstappen was able to finish the race over 15 seconds ahead of Lewis Hamilton in P2. And George Russell took the fastest lap, and the driver of the day went to Daniel Ricciardo, deservedly so.
Man, if only I had picked that from the beginning.
Right. I think I chose Ricciardo in the US, and then I felt so bad. after what happened that I switched to Norris for Mexico, and then it ended up being Ricciardo. So anyway, the results of the race on the podium was Verstappen, Hamilton, and Perez. 4 and 5 were Russell and Sainz. 6 through 10 was Leclerc, Ricciardo, Ocon, Norris, and Bottas. 11 through 15 was Gasly, Albon, Zhou, Vettel, and Stroll. 16 through 18, rounding off the finishers, were Schumacher, Magnussen, and Latifi. And then we had 2 DNFs this race, and they were Fernando Alonso, who had an engine failure, and Yuki Tsunoda, who got honey badgered.
TM, patent pending.
Yep. Not the most exciting race, in my opinion. I think
No, definitely some mixed opinions out there. In my opinion, like I said at the start, it was fine. It was one of the most races ever.
It was one of the most races.
Definitely one of them.
Yeah, it was a race. I was a little disappointed. I don't think there was too much action. I know some people liked it. It's kind of mixed opinions. There was some action in the midfield, I'll say, and it was a lot of fun to watch Daniel Ricciardo. But up at the front, it was like Max was 15 seconds down the road for pretty much the whole race. And I mean, Lewis kind of reeled him in a little bit towards the end, but not with any sort of real threat to Verstappen. I think Max was probably just managing his tires more than anything.
Yeah. The main thing I liked from this race was Sergio Perez podium, Mexico.
Yep.
Finally.
Just like last year. That was
just
one
like
thing
we were all waiting for.
Yeah. It was actually funny. It was the exact same podium as last year, same order and everything. Just a little bit of yeah. It was last year in Mexico was Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez on the podium. So
the more things change, the more they see it the same.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a different season though, I'd say.
Very different road to get here.
Right. And speaking of which, Max Verstappen broke the single season win record at 14 wins in a single season. A lot of people say that even though he broke the record, it's not quite as good as Schumacher and Vettel's record at 13 because he has a lower win percentage because there's more races in the seasons nowadays than there were before. One thing about that, he actually does currently have a higher win percentage than Sebastian Vettel's record. And if he wins the next two and final two races of the season, he will surpass Schumacher's win percentage record as well.
Yeah, and you can always add more and more qualifiers to, shift whichever driver you want to be at the top of that particular statistic as needed.
Exactly. Yeah, you can manipulate data to really say whatever you want to.
Yeah, just watch an NBA game and you'll know.
Yeah. A lot of people are always going to say that Schumacher was the best ever. Some people say Senna, some people say Vettel, some people say Hamilton. I mean, it's all subjective, and but it's still very impressive to win 14 races in a season, regardless.
Very much so, yeah.
So I don't think you can really take that from Max. But let's go over the championship standings real quick. I mean, not much has changed. Verstappen won.
Let's go over second place standings.
Yeah, second place. Perez jumped over Leclerc. He is now ahead by 5 points. That's about it. Everything else stays the same. In the teams championship, the constructors, McLaren has closed the gap to Alpine even more. So now they are only 7 points down. So anything could happen going into the last two races of the season, which is very exciting. Aston Martin is still pretty close to Alfa Romeo. And then
I think I can actually see Aston Martin catching Alfa Romeo based on their performance these past few races.
I could see that too. And then it'll be interesting to see if either of the Haas or AlphaTauri cars score points for the rest of the year, because they're only separated by 1 point at the moment. So that will be another interesting battle. And then there's Williams in 10th.
Haas really needs that 8th place spot.
Oh, yes.
Did they come in 10th last season or 9th?
No, that was definitely 10th. They didn't score any points last season.
Yeah, because Williams got an point.
Yeah, they got one or two. No, actually, they got a few points because George Russell scored. He got 9th in Hungary, and Latifi got 10th, I think. Or no, Latifi got 8th. That's right, because Russell's first points with Williams was also the first time Latifi beat him in a race.
Oh, I remember now.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they got
Spa.
They got probably and then Spa, where they would have picked up quite a few. They probably got about 20 points last season, if I were to guess.
That's a lot more than I remembered, but
right.
Yeah, Haas really needs to get something better than 10th. this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it looks like they're going to get ninth at the very least. Unless Williams wins a race, which... go Tiffy with the exclamation point at the end of his career.
Could you imagine if Williams scores the points to shunt Haas back down to 10th?
That would be so tragic. Oh, Gunter Steiner would not be having it. So, moving on to the overtake of the week. We're actually moving outside of F1 for this one into a series we have not given an overtake of the week or really talked about it all this year, and that is NASCAR. So, this week at Martinsville, I mean, I'm going to be honest, I don't watch NASCAR. It does not interest me in the slightest. I mean, it probably would if I got into it, but I have no interest right now. But they were racing at Martinsville this week. Short asphalt track. And Ross Chastain, on the last lap into the last turn, decided to pull the ultimate iRacing move and ride the wall with the throttle wide open. It looks like a video game. Like, if you haven't seen the video, just Google Ross Chastain NASCAR pass or wall ride or something like that, and you'll find it. It won't be very hard to find. It's actually crazy. He overtook over half the field and made it into P4, which advanced him into the playoffs. So
yeah, definitely look up the in-car radio for each driver that witnessed it too.
That was so funny.
That was hilarious.
They're like, what? What
was the cool? Even the guys getting past, like, that was the coolest shit I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. Absolute. I don't even know, man. I didn't think that could work in real life. I mean, you see it in video games all the time because video game physics, but like, what?
Those new gen NASCARs are just absolute tanks, and you can see he actually went just wide open throttle into that wall. Yeah, he set a lap record. Pretty sure.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Pretty sure
he definitely would have
set.
Yeah, he definitely would have set a lap record. I didn't even think about that. That's so funny.
Yeah, I think he was the fastest lap that race by a full second or something.
And what's crazy is the car wasn't even destroyed after that. Like, it probably wasn't super drivable. I would imagine the toe on the wheels was probably a little messed up.
The suspension was a little out of alignment, yeah.
But, like, the car wasn't destroyed. It was, like, he made it back to the pits just fine.
It's just absurd.
Absolutely crazy. I highly recommend you go check out that overtake if you have not seen it yet. Never seen anything like it in real life.
Yeah. And we will likely never see anything like that again because NASCAR does not like that.
No, they're almost certainly going to outlaw that going forward, and Chastain has already stated that he's not going to do that in the playoffs. So, yeah, that's probably a once-in-a-lifetime thing. Definitely will probably go down in NASCAR history. It'll be on a top 10 overtake list for probably the next 50 years.
Somebody put Ross Chastain in a Formula 1 car.
Yeah.
You thought Ricciardo's pass was bad on Tsunoda? Oh, man.
I want to see an IndyCar dude out at the 500 next year. That's all I'm saying. Man, that would not end the same way, I guarantee.
No, that would be terrible.
But anyway, moving on to the Pit Stop Championship for this week. Again, just so you guys know, our pit stops for this season have been measured from the time the driver enters the pits to the time the driver leaves the pits at the timing lines, instead of the just regular stationary box time. I did, however, I know I was talking about this a little last episode, I did find a website that lists all of the pit box time itself. And so next season we will be using that because I think that's a lot more fun than just doing the cumulative time. A little bit more representative of the team's accomplishments. So in this week, we had Charles Leclerc with the fastest pit stop from pit entry to exit. Notably, Daniel Ricciardo was second in this measurement. However, he did get the fastest stationary time of the season, the first sub 2 second pit stop of the season at 1.98 seconds. Awesome
Wait,
stuff.
Really?
Yeah. Did you not see that?
I missed that.
Yeah, Daniel Ricciardo had a 1.98 second pit stop this
Oh
week.
my gosh.
Yep. So McLaren were on it. Absolutely on it. And then I think Norris's pit stop was like 2.2 something. So 2 very fast pit stops. I don't know why Lando is so far down in the list from entry to exit. But yeah, so the top 10 were Leclerc, Ricciardo, Ocon, Tsunoda, Verstappen, Vettel, Norris, Russell, Stroll, and Alonso. So McLaren takes the lead of the DHL fastest pit stop competition, I guess. So they will get the award for that.
That is not something I saw coming.
Yeah, they'll get the award for that at the end of the season unless Red Bull responds in the next 2 races, which is entirely possible.
Red Bull, bring back the 1.8 second pit stop, you cowards.
There we go. Can't wait. But yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it's only been, a year and a half since the new regs, and we're already back down under 2 seconds, so it's only going to get faster and faster from here.
That's what we like to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Pit Stop Championship standings, Drivers' Championship, nothing has changed. Perez has still very much won the championship. Really close battle for third, though, between Gasly and Tsunoda, who are separated by just 1 point. Let's see, what else? Not too much else of interest. Let's look at the constructors. Everybody's pretty spread out. Looks like McLaren and Aston Martin might be the only fight going into... Oh, no, Ferrari and Aston Martin. So there's still a battle for third, it looks like. McLaren needs to do really well, though, in the next couple races to get that third place. But we'll see. So, next up is our predictions for the Mexican Grand Prix. I'll go over mine first, just to remind everybody of the top 5 that actually occurred. It was Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez, Russell, and Sainz. My predictions for this race were Perez, Verstappen, Hamilton, Russell, and Sainz, with my dark horse as Lando Norris.
I was doing so well last time. I was feeling pretty good. I got nothing on this one. I had Hamilton, Perez, Verstappen, Sainz, Leclerc, with Stroll as my dark horse.
Yeah. I mean, that was me last week. I know how it feels. I will say I got 4th and 5th correct, and I actually got the entire top 5 drivers right. I just got the top 3 in the wrong order.
Yeah, I had top 3 in wrong order, so I'll take that.
Yeah,
and I did get the fastest lap correct.
Yes, you did. Yep. The fastest lap went to George Russell this week, and that was what you guessed last week. I guessed Max Verstappen. That didn't happen. It almost happened, but Russell decided to pit at the end of the race for soft tires to grab that fastest lap.
As usual.
Yep, as usual. I can't wait for Mercedes to do that and then botch a pit stop and lose like 3 positions because of it.
Oh my gosh.
It's going to bite him one day. But anyway, driver of the day went to Daniel Ricciardo this week. Neither of us saw that coming.
You at least thought McLaren driver.
I did side Lando. I thought it was going to be Lando Norris, but it was not, even though Norris did have a pretty good race.
Yeah, and I really thought Perez was going to be a shoe-in. But yeah, after watching Ricciardo's race, it makes sense that it wasn't.
Yeah, that's who I voted for. Okay, so moving on to the Brazilian Grand Prix next weekend. Why don't you go over your top 5 first, Ben?
Oh boy. Okay. I know I keep beating this horse, but Hamilton has to win a race at some point, and if he is, it's going to be in Brazil.
That's true.
He's going to Brazil, and he has to win a race. So I have Hamilton, followed by Verstappen. I got Russell in 3rd, and then I have Perez and Sainz, and I have Zhou as my dark horse, because I need my boy to have a good race at some point.
Okay. Let's hope for that Zhou P5. That would be...
Really, Zhou points.
Zhou points, there you go.
I'll take Zhou in points.
Yeah. He could use some. He's had a rough season. Like, he hasn't been bad. He's just kind of not in the best car.
No.
But he's been pretty close to Bottas for most of the year.
I remember when Alfa Romeo's car looked super fast.
Yeah, in the first race.
Yeah.
In pretty practice. Much only the first race, yeah.
Yeah.
But Bottas was actually flying this week. He was pretty quick.
Yeah.
Did he score points?
I think he
got 10th, so he scored 8 points, yeah.
Yes.
I know he qualified 6th, but he dropped back pretty quickly. Anyway, my top 5 predictions for this race. I have Verstappen winning. That just seems like the most logical choice to me. But I honestly hope Hamilton wins a race this season. I really want him to continue his streak of winning a race in every season he competes in. I think that would be the coolest thing to have next to your name. So I have Verstappen winning, Leclerc 2nd, Sainz 3rd, Hamilton 4th, and Perez 5th, with my dark horse being Sebastian Vettel.
And I think that's absolutely reasonable. Vettel's been really kind of perking up recently.
Yeah, that's my reasoning there. Is Vettel's been driving super aggressively, super well, putting that car where it shouldn't really be. And even the car itself does look like it's getting a little bit faster, because even Stroll is starting to pick up his game a little bit.
Yep.
So that's my reasoning there. I do think it's going to be a Ferrari 2-3, because I think the Ferraris are going to do well at this track. It's kind of more of a downforce track than the other ones. So we'll see. We will absolutely see. And then we'll talk about how horribly our predictions went wrong next week.
Yeah.
But for fastest lap, I said Leclerc.
And I have Verstappen.
Okay. And then driver of the day, we both went with Lewis Hamilton, it looks like.
Yeah. Like I said, he has to. Hamilton is going to Brazil.
Hamilton in Brazil, it seems like Perez in Mexico. Like, they love Lewis over there.
Which might just mean another Danny Ricciardo throughout their day.
Yeah, let's say. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Danny Rick flying through the field with maybe he'll get the rocket ship Mercedes engine that we saw last season.
Oh, man.
But anyway, before we wrap this up, Ben, do you have any words of wisdom for the wonderful people in the audience?
Ladies and gentlemen, the lesson of the day today is equity. Invest. You want physical things that you can hold, things that, while they may depreciate, you will always have the physical value of what they represent, be it a car, be it a house, be it 200 grams of silver that you have buried in your backyard. Get as much equity as you can and hold on to it, because the end will come. And when it does, we've all played Fallout. Start collecting bottle caps, have something you can trade to get cool guns, a dog, and like a nice settlement in the middle of nowhere.
There you go. Good advice. Go out and buy your Pokemon cards, kids. Great investment right there. Holds their value like nothing else.
I can still have some in the attic, actually. I'm waiting for those to be worth big bucks one day.
I'm growing my MTG collection slowly but surely. Anyway, thank you everybody so much for listening to this episode of RevHang. It's been a short one, but if you enjoyed it, leave a like or rating on the platform you listened on, because it really helps us out. If you'd like to follow our thoughts and opinions on the motorsport world, just follow us on Twitter and Instagram at RevHang Media. If you have any thoughts or questions about racing or even about us, post a tweet at #RevHangPodcast, and we may feature your question on the next show. I check it every week. We would absolutely love to interact with you guys, so make sure you reach out. You can follow Ben on Instagram at BenjiMeetsWorld and or myself at 2n_squared. While you're at it, go check out our website, RevHang.com, where you can find a calendar of upcoming races, updated standings for the series we talk about, and our terribly, terribly incorrect predictions for the F1 season. We'll return in a week, approximately at this point, to talk about the Brazilian Grand Prix in Sao Paulo. But until then, I have been Nathan.
And I'm Ben.
Thanks for hanging out.
See you guys.